the other manager guy, the bollocking he gave me backstage.
Hmm.
It was like he spoke to me like he was the manager.
Yeah.
There was a few things, and I won't go into all of them, but one of them was fire certain
Mm.
people. They were there at the gig, yeah, and they knew each other, Mia and this person, and there was a mutual respect there. And he asked her if he could come and talk to me, and she knew what he was going to say, and she let him. And I think that says a lot for her trust in him. Don't
Mm.
forget, he was a big manager. He was hanging out with Bruce Dickinson and everyone like that, wasn't he? He had links to Maiden and everything.
Mm.
And he had a go at me, and I didn't say anything to the band at the time. But do you remember the next rehearsal after the tour finished? This is sort of beckoning. This is a beckoning era because we definitely weren't on Bring Out Your Dead, but we'd done quite a bit of beckonings by this point. So like, it's before we went to start writing the next stuff. But we would. I think I'm sure it was in Germany. So I don't know if we were playing with Overkill or someone like that at the time because I think we did Overkill. Was that Germany with Overkill? That little.
Yeah. We did Europe with Overkill, yeah.
I came in and I told the band, I said, look, something was said to me on that tour. And I said, I need to discuss it with you. And I turned to the band and I said, he said to me, like, fire this person, do this, do that, and all of that. Do you remember the look on, in particular, do you remember the look on Rob's face when we had
Mm.
the discussion? Like, because Rob was looking at me quite shocked. What's that label? They were fucking
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary Records, yes. There's kind of a potential offer on the table if I fire you. And Rob was looking at me because he thought I was firing him, and he looked really shocked. And I said, so I need to ask you a question. If I stick with you, are you going to leave in 1 month, 6 months, or
Mm.
something like that? Because if you are, I think this needs to be the cutoff point because of the potential deal I have. Yeah, there's no point not doing that if you're going to leave anyway.
Mm.
Do you remember this?
Yeah. He wanted you to fire me as well.
He wanted me to fire the whole band more or less and just
Yeah.
make it a deal for whatever reason. And I still don't agree with this, but he thought I was worth signing and the rest of the band wasn't. He wanted potentially put together a new 54 under his management. He would have potentially taken over the manager. Like we had Julie Weir doing that Welsh band. Someone
Mm.
offered them a better deal, and she was like, "They can do more for you than I can do." So that band that were blowing up, he could have done a lot more for us than Mir could have done. The connections are just
Yeah. Next level, yeah.
right. So that's a big fucking deal, and because of the way the band ended, it does bother me sometimes. What gets to me is when I turned around, I remember looking Rob in the eye. Because the thing is, I could have haggled for you to stay, and I knew that because that manager, me and him chatted on the side too. Yeah, I would have haggled for you to stay. You know that. Me and you were, even now, yeah,
Mm.
unbreakable, right? People have tried. People are still trying. Ain't gonna
Yeah.
fucking work though. At the time when we were in that room, it's not a comfortable discussion to have, but out of respect to everyone, I've done it face to face,
Yeah.
like an adult. Looked you in the eye, Rob, and I said, there's no
Mm.
point me hanging on to someone if they're gonna fuck off. It'd be like Glenn and Jeremy when you think about it, but much bigger deal. But I took Jeremy's side, and then he left anyway. So
Yeah.
like it's almost like, well, I'm not going to make that mistake again. I could have turned to Jeremy at the time, in hindsight, and said, "Are you going to leave soon?" And if he said, "Yeah," I could have said, "Okay, then no problem, Glenn stay." It's the
Yeah.
same thing, but this is much more serious. And
Yeah.
doesn't it? When he said, "No, I'm serious, I'm staying," and all of that, and I said, "Okay," and I let it all wash away,
Mm.
and I did never pursued it at all. Not even a thank you.
Mm.
Not even a thank you. How many musicians would have done that?
Oh, barely any, if any at all. But
My
I
my loyalty to
remember.
all of you was fucking 100%. You, Steve, everyone. My loyalty was to you guys.
I seem to remember that there was some talk about something which didn't quite get. maybe didn't get said, or maybe didn't get actually, maybe it got mentioned but never resolved, and that was something to do with him compromising with the size of his kit.
Mm.
At some point, that was something to do with it, and that came up, and I had an uneasy feeling about it. I remember thinking, shit, I really hope that this doesn't blow up in his face, because like at that point, obviously, I had nothing else in my life to live for. It was literally my whole world, everything. Like the only thing I had, literally the only thing I was living for was 54. So I just couldn't have sort of imagined what was going to happen in the future, as what we know now happened. But yeah, I do remember there was some talk about something to do with just simply the size of the kit, and maybe a compromise with attitudes because of what you had, and that went down like a fucking cup of cold sick. That didn't, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. I didn't have a good. It's not like we came out of that meeting feeling all like best buds and all like, yeah, we're gonna win in this together. I came out of that meeting feeling like something's not right here. I didn't know what it was.
Which
You know
meeting? Which meeting?
that, as I call it, a meeting, the rehearsal where you
Well,
sat
I
there.
said that.
Yeah,
That
it
was
felt
in,
like a meeting.
well, that was the most serious discussion we'd ever had in our rehearsal in Wicton rehearsal studios,
Yeah, it felt
and
like
I
a business meeting.
had to wait for the tour to finish to say that.
Yeah,
Because you don't bring it up on tour. There's a time and a place, and
yeah,
yeah, it was unpleasant. I really hope that you could have always trusted me. Never would have done
yeah. Oh
anything
no, I know that.
ended.
I
And
know that.
I I feel like my undoing is always that I'm honest. Like to look someone like Rob in the eye and say this. We loved him, right? We loved hanging out with him. He was a great person. He is a
Yeah,
great person. Like, on a personal
yeah,
level, there was no problem. But don't you think it says a lot actually that not only did he um, leave the band the way he did, but even right then, not I see. It didn't even bother me then. It bothers me in hindsight because of
yeah,
his behavior and the way he left.
yeah,
And like, if you look at him now, because he's got a YouTube channel, if you look at him now, he's got a tiny drum kit. The thing we kept telling you to do, asking you to do, and you wouldn't do it. You know, while
yeah,
everyone was turning on us, not so much as a fucking thank you. So when you get these artists and they just do something really shitty, and you go, "What a wanker to do that to your
mm,
bassist or whatever." You've been with them for 10 years. You can see how they become that, can't you?
yeah,
Because you think to yourself, "Well, if I was in that situation again, I'd fucking fire you on the spot. Like, make your kit smaller or fuck off."
yeah,
Because look where it got me doing that. No, I still have no regrets because the journey I've been on since. I would, if what if I ended up becoming actually a famous rocker? I wouldn't have learned how to produce, got into different music, met the people I met, and everything. So I have no regrets because that's what life is. It just puts you on other
yeah.
roads you weren't expecting. But still, having said all that, that's the thing that I think with Rob that bothers me the most. That there was
You'd
not
think
so
that
much.
when
It
push came to shove, there was a bit of loyalty in return.
would have been nice.
Meaning, you'd think that he might have remembered, oh, hold on a minute, this guy got offered the moon on a stick and he turned it down.